All right, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. This is a joint committee of finance and license, and it's hereby called to order. The time is 1:06 p.m. on Monday, November 17th, 2020.
Tuesday.
If you could mute yourself, we will proceed with the text for the meeting. Pursuant to applicable law, my determination that attendance by remote means is necessary because an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent due to the declared public health disaster caused by COVID-19. This joint meeting is conducted by video conference. We will now have a roll call to establish quorum. Alderman Hopkins, and before we start, I'm making note that some of you are on license and finance, and that will be reflected in the record. So Alderman Hopkins.
Yeah, present for both committees.
Alderman Dowell. Alderman King. Alderman Hairston.
Present.
Alderman Sawyer.
Here.
Alderman Mitchell.
Present.
Alderman Harris.
Here.
Alderman Beal.
Yep.
Alderman Sadowski Garza.
Here.
Alderman Thompson.
Here.
Alderman Cardenas. Alderman Burke.
Alderman Quinn's here.
Thank you. Alderman Lopez.
Alderman Lopez present.
Sorry, Alderman Quinn. Yes, I got you. Alderman Coleman. Alderman Moore.
Present.
Alderman Curtis. Alderman O'Shea.
Here.
Alderman Brookins.
Yep.
Alderman Tabares.
Present.
Alderman Scott. Alderman Burnett. Alderman Irvin.
Alderman Irvin is here.
Yes, sir. Alderman Taliaferro.
Alderman Taliaferro's here.
Alderman Roboris.
Yep.
Alderman Austin. See?
Here.
Alderman Villegas. Alderman Sposato.
Alderman Sposato is here.
And Alderman Villegas.
Alderman Dowell's here.
Gotcha. Alderman Napolitano.
Present.
Okay. Alderman Reilly. Alderman Smith.
Here.
Alderman Tunney.
Here.
Alderman Gardner.
Present.
Alderman Kappelman.
Present.
Alderman Martin.
Here.
And Alderman Silverstein.
Here.
Chairman Williams, Alderman Mitz is present, and I do think we missed Alderman King.
Alderman King.
Alderman Dowell, did you get me?
Oh, yep. And then I was going to call Chairwoman Mitz and Chairwoman Wagasback are present.
Chairman Wagasback, did you get Alderman Villegas?
Yes, I did.
Thank you.
And Quinn.
Chairman
Alderman,
did you get Alderman Gardner?
yes, I did.
Thank you.
Alderman Burnett.
Is here.
I'm sorry. Who was that just spoke?
Rodriguez Sanchez. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we do have a quorum for purposes of this joint committee. And as you know, we will be discussing a food delivery ordinance. We have 4 speakers signed up for public comment today. And our first speaker for the agenda will be Mr. Sam Toya.
Hello, thank you. Thank you, Chairman Wagasback and Mitz and members of the committee for letting me testify today. We've been having these conversations for some time now. In May, the city took a step in the right direction to bring much needed transparency to the food and delivery space. But with this latest shutdown, we need more action to protect restaurants that are running out of options. The reality is that delivery services often take 30% or more of the total cost of every purchase a diner makes from a restaurant. Right now, if you make a $10 order through a third-party delivery service, it's likely a restaurant may get $7 of that order. The delivery service takes the rest. Even in good times, on average, 97 cents of every dollar a restaurant takes in goes right back into the food, employees, and everything else that goes with running the place. There's just not enough money coming in right now to be able to afford paying such a high percentage of every meal you serve right to the delivery service. Neighborhood restaurants can't afford to be paying upwards of 30% per order to third-party delivery companies. Every dollar counts. The time is now to put guardrails in place to cap the amount that delivery services can change to small, independent restaurants that are hanging on. The city of Chicago needs to put a cap on fees delivery service can charge onto restaurants, like they've done in New York, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Denver, Seattle, and many more. This would be a temporary measure to help support restaurants that are struggling through another indoor dining shutdown. Delivery services need to realize that if Chicago restaurants can't survive through this crisis, there will be no restaurants to deliver food from. Setting a reasonable fee cap would help get independent restaurants some much needed cash flow and breathing room to help pay their staff, make the rent, and keep the lights on. For too long, delivery services have been completely unregulated, unchecked, and have held enormous leverage over small, independent restaurants. We need to consider all options to support our restaurants, which are the cornerstones of our 77 communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Toya. Next up, we will have Ariel Bannister.
Good afternoon, and thank you as well for having me. My company, Banny Speaks, like many others, have severely been affected by the increased cost of operating a business during a pandemic. We want to be there for our customers, especially those of our customers who feel like we're a vital part of their wellness protection during these times. Essentials such as PPE, sanitizing, bleach, other input materials are set at a premium of 60% or more at times. And so while safety is at the forefront of our operations, our compliance overheads matched with the growing increase of online sales is simply unsustainable. Third-party delivery services cost us small businesses nearly 30% per sale, while our fixed taxes of 10.25% per sale is fixed, and increasing credit card fees as well as merchant processing fees, due to us having to transfer to being more virtual, it decreases our income. The hospitality industry at large has been challenged, and we are beyond struggling. We have given all that we have, and we need relief immediately. So having this tax cap will support our efforts in supporting our businesses and keeping our doors open.
Thank you, Ms. Bannister. Appreciate your comments. Next up, we will have Ms. Beverly Kim.
Thank you. Thank you, City Council and Chairman Waguespack and Chairman Mitz for having me testify today on behalf of myself, but also of all small independent restaurants in the Chicagoland area. With indoor dining shut down and heading into winter, takeout and delivery will be all we have to survive. My name is Beverly Kim, and I'm chef owner of 2 restaurants, Parachute and Wherewithal, in the Avondale neighborhood of Chicago in the 33rd Ward. 8 months into the pandemic, and I've personally experienced heavy amount of losses. Originally, between the 2 restaurants, we had 50 full-time employees, and now we can only afford 7 full-time employees. We've chosen to temporarily close Wherewithal because at the onset of the pandemic, it was losing an average of $6,000 a week. Before the pandemic, we would average $70,000 in sales a week between 2 restaurants. Now we are struggling to make $15,000 in sales with 1 restaurant. Parachute is focused on takeout operations and had to close for the summer due to lack of patio space and a family emergency. But when we reopened in October, we have been losing about $7,000 to $8,000 a week for the past month and a half. At the onset of the pandemic, we took on Caviar because it was doing a 0% fee promotion. But when that promotion ended, they were going to have to take 25% of each sale. This seemed crazy as we were struggling to attain 0% profitability so we could just keep our doors open. It seemed like a payday loan for a restaurant like ours, so we dropped Caviar. Some of my friends in the industry have no choice but to try every delivery app to keep their doors open. My friend Tigis of Debra Ethiopian restaurant said she had made $40,000 in delivery sales last month, but paid $9,000 in fees. That is 22.5% of her delivery sales are going to commissions. She is struggling to pay her bills, and she implored me to ask for a cap for restaurants like hers and ours. Some of us are choosing to avoid using delivery apps altogether, but at the risk of losing the ability to stay competitive, as the delivery app search engines are much, much more powerful than our own marketing. Many of us restaurateurs are also frustrated at the predatory false websites without restaurant owners' consent that the delivery apps create. In the end, it has created angry customers when deliveries are not fulfilled or the menus are outdated, and it damages our hard-earned brand identities and reputation. I've personally experienced this, and all of us restaurateurs feel that it is an unconstitutional practice. Restaurants and eateries in a normal economy run on an average of 6 to 8% profitability, but this pandemic has forced us to struggle to even attain 0% profitability, even despite laying off the majority of our staff. On the other hand, these delivery apps are hitting record profitability during this pandemic, and we need to be able to come to the table and set reasonable fees so the fabric of Chicago's small independent restaurants that make it the America's best city for 4 years in a row can survive.
Now your meeting your time is up. Our next speaker we have is Brent Swanson.
Madam Chair, it's Miss Amy Healy is our next speaker.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Chairwoman Mitz. I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon,
You can
and
proceed.
thank you, Chairwoman Mitz and Chairman Wagasback for hosting this joint hearing, and thank you to all of the committee members who are here today. My name is Amy Healy, and I'm the Head of Public Affairs at Grubhub. We appreciate the city's commitment to supporting the restaurants that are the lifeblood of Chicago's neighborhoods. This is a commitment Grubhub shares and has been at the heart of our work since we were founded in Chicago in 2004. Today, our headquarters and more than 1,300 employees are right across Washington from City Hall. Since COVID hit, Grubhub has worked harder than ever to support our local restaurants and drivers. We have committed more than $2 million to date to organizations and drivers in Chicago, including support for the reopening of the Union League Boys and Girls Club and major funding for Means, an organization that purchases and donates unused food from local restaurants. This support has allowed struggling restaurants to remain open during the pandemic and has resulted in nearly 30,000 meals for families in need. Grubhub has also donated more than $1 million to the Restaurant Strong Fund for grants to help Chicago restaurants stay afloat during these challenging times. At the beginning of the pandemic, Grubhub served as a founding member of the Illinois COVID-19 Response Fund. As the pandemic has continued, our support has grown stronger. We are contributing to the Illinois Restaurant Association's fund to support restaurant workers. And just last week, we announced the Restaurant Winterization Grant Program, a $2 million initiative to provide $10,000 grants to independent restaurants to help them prepare for winter. While overall the funds are going to 4 cities with tough winters, the vast majority of them are going to our hometown restaurants in Chicago. And the restaurants are getting the money by the end of this month. But enough about us. As you consider this ordinance, there are some elements I wanted to weigh in on. First, the bill in front of you includes language that we recommended and strongly support to protect driver pay. We are proud of our record at Grubhub. 100% of tips have always gone to our drivers, and we have never reduced driver pay to offset fee caps. But it's important to note, while we do not reduce pay, our internal data shows that fee caps drive up diner fees, and that results in fewer orders for restaurants and fewer work opportunities for drivers. While there isn't time today to explain the differences in business models, I would summarize by noting there are companies who are focused on logistics, driving food from the restaurant to the diner, and there are companies like Grubhub that were founded around the principle of helping restaurants grow and thrive in the age of the internet and smartphones. We provide support like search engine marketing and optimization, loyalty and rewards programs, point of sale integration, and other services. Some of our competitors are primarily focused on moving food from point A to point B, and this kind of restaurant support is not their business. So although we all have real hard costs for delivery, Grubhub also has hard costs for the marketing services we are contracted to provide for our restaurant partners. We support a proposal that supports restaurants in Chicago while allowing for a fair playing field that doesn't provide a competitive advantage to one business model over another. I think that's my time, so I thank you for your time and consideration today, and please let me know if you have any additional questions or have need further information from us. Thank you.
Thank you. And this will conclude our public comment period. We have one item on the agenda for today, and item number 02020-5705, an ordinance relating the various fees, charges to restaurants by third-party food delivery service, introduced by Alderman Wagensback and Alderman O'Shea, but we have a substitute ordinance. So can I get someone to motion to accept the
So move on the
substitute?
substitute. So move, Madam Chair.
That was Alderman Boris.
Boris. Alderman Boris, they accept the substitute. So order. The substitute order is now before us. Chairman Wagensback, would you like to speak on the order first on this ordinance?
Sure, thank you, Co-Chair. Before we do that, I think when I read the roll call, I wasn't sure if I heard Alderman Burnett or Alderman Reilly.
Thank you, Chairman. Alderman Reilly is here for the roll call. Thank you.
Thank you. And Alderman Burnett?
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure we get that clear there.
Alderman Vasquez also present.
Alderman Curtis. Alderman Curtis. Yeah, did you get me as being present?
Yes, I did, sir.
Thanks. Something went wrong with this computer, and I was out for a few minutes, but I thought that you applied the first roll call for the second. If you didn't, I'm here.
We did another roll call to establish quorum for the joint committee, but I do have you. Thank you. Chairman Mitz, should I go ahead with the comment just around the substitute?
Yes, around the substitute, and we do have for question our commissioner from BCAP, Commissioner Rosa Escamillo is still on.
Thank you. And just some quick comments. First, I want to thank Chairwoman Mitz. I've been bothering her quite a bit lately, going back and forth on this, trying to incorporate the different concerns of several aldermen, the IRA and others. So I want to thank you for bearing with us on this. Thank a lot of our colleagues for their insistence on trying to help all of our restaurants. As all of you know, they're the heartbeat of our neighborhood. So we're going to try to do anything that we can in this challenging time to give them the support that they really need, and really direct what we can to keep those people that they employ. And it's thousands of people, earning a paycheck, putting food on their tables at home, as well as for those who show up at the restaurants or have delivery. So the substitute that you should have in front of you, it was emailed out to everyone, incorporates a few changes. And number one, it incorporates a whereas clause more focused on the public health emergency to strengthen the legal justification. It removes the ordinance from permanent municipal code to avoid cluttering up the code. It does tweak some definitions to bring them in line with existing definitions in the code. It makes a slight tweak to the enforcement section to strengthen legality, and we will have BACP to speak to that. It prohibits fees other than those in the ordinance from being charged. modifies how the percentage is calculated per month instead of per order to allow for that better enforcement by the ACP. And it removes the gratuity section due to a lack of authority for the regulation. It does add ILCS reference in section 3, and the overall length of time for this would be for 60 days at 40% capacity before repeal. So those were some of the changes in the substitute. And with that, I will hand it back to Chairman Mitz for any further discussion.
Thank you. Chairman O'Shea, would you like to weigh in on the ordinance?
Thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to say that this is a common sense approach to what we're up against, certainly what our restaurants are up against. My community is no different than the other communities here throughout the city council. Our restaurants are struggling. Many are hanging on by a thread. Day in and day out, I'm hearing from restaurant owners, as are all of you. This is offering them a lifeline, offering them the opportunity to spend their money on keeping staff employed, being able to keep operating. Many of my restaurateurs in my community are now running off their savings. I'd like to thank Chairman Wagesbach, Chairman Mitz for their leadership on this issue. And thank you for the opportunity to speak on this.
Thank you. All right, questions by committee members? Alderman Hopkins.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Co-Chair. And I want to offer my commendation to Alderman Wagesbach and the other sponsors of this, Alderman O'Shea. And thank you for reaching out to me to invite me to co-sponsor. I gratefully accepted because this is necessary and this is needed. As Mr. Toya said, the restaurants are operating on such razor-thin margins. For many of them, having to sacrifice such a large percentage of their profits to third-party services could be the difference between black ink and red ink in a given month. And what we've seen from some of these third-party services, I don't want to lump them all together, is absolutely rapacious and predatory behavior, and it has to stop. This ordinance is not perfect. I think enforcement is going to be a challenge. It's really the best we can do right now. There's some other things that have to happen that go beyond the scope of what we can accomplish in this ordinance. And I just want to direct some of my comments in that direction because I know some of our friends in the restaurant industry are listening. I actually was in the restaurant industry. I was a restaurant operator for a period of time some years back, and I fully understand the need for services like Grubhub and the others. There will always be restaurant operators who don't have the time or the inclination to put together an in-house delivery system, and they're going to want to outsource it. I get that. But in today's time, when we're trying to establish the competitive groundwork for how those third-party services will function, how they'll make a profit, and how they'll fit in the overall industry, the wheel is very much still in spin. We haven't determined it yet. And there's an advantage that they're wielding over the brick and mortar businesses right now that I would suggest is unfair. So my message to the restaurants that are watching this right now, help us help you. Let's compete with them. If you haven't looked at your own website lately, when this meeting is over, go to your website, look at your own website and ask yourself if you were a customer, maybe just moved into the neighborhood for the first time and you're looking at that website, is all the information you want right there? And here's what people want. They want to know the hours that you're open. They want to know your curbside pickup arrangements and your delivery arrangements while we're in the middle of a COVID pandemic. And they want to know if they can order through your website or if they have to call you. That should all be front and center on your website. Don't hide it. Don't make them search for it. Don't make them resort to Grubhub, because that's really been Grubhub's advantage, is the app that they market kind of makes it simple. You can search for a restaurant, you can order with just a few keystrokes. The way to compete with them is to compete with them. And I know I speak for a lot of restaurant customers out there. I would greatly prefer my money
to go to the small business operators themselves, to the mom and pop restaurants, and even some of the chain restaurants. I'd much rather have that relationship directly with them rather than have a third party in the middle taking an unnecessary share of the profits. So make it easier for us, guys. Fix your websites, make it easier to order, and make it clear on your website that that is your website. And that's another issue we have to address is this mimicking of restaurant websites. In my opinion, that's fraud. And I know it's crosses state boundaries too, so it may be beyond the scope of our jurisdiction as a city council, but it's a deceptive practice at the minimum. And it's out there and the restaurants are being victimized by it. So make sure your restaurant website makes it clear that it is you and it's your preferred method as a restaurant operator for your customers to use that to order from you. If we do that, I think it's going to make some of the more marginal third-party operators, it could actually push them out of business because most people would rather know who they're dealing with than someone hiding behind the cloak of an internet app. So with that, again, Alderman O'Shea and Alderman Waguespack, thank you for bringing this important issue to our attention. I support this and I would urge an aye vote for my colleagues.
Thank you, Alderman Hopkins. Alderman Sposato.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First off, Brian, great advice. My office, we order lunch. I order lunch a lot for my staff, and I look at some of my restaurants' websites, and it's like you can hardly interpret anything, understand what they have, understand the prices. But great tip. I think I'll share that in my emails to remind everybody to update their website. But I do have one question though, and I know Alderman Tunney's on, and I'd like to direct it to him because nobody can answer it better than him. I feel I should have asked him privately, but I do have a little bit of a concern that I'm just worried that it potentially could some of these delivery services not want to deliver anymore. So I'm guessing the big boys would continue delivery, but are they actually going to be counterproductive? And actually, you think potentially lose delivery service? So I don't mean to call you out. I should have asked you privately, but I didn't think of it till right now. So can you let us know, let me know right now, kind of how you feel about this? I mean, I put a lot of stock in how you feel. So
Alderman Attorney, can you please respond to Alderman Sposato?
Nick, will you just repeat the question? I was on a call.
So my only concern is, of course, we all want to support our local businesses and everything, but is this something that could hamper the delivery services to the point where they don't want to deliver anymore, and then the restaurants are going to lose their resources to deliver food to people? So can you enlighten me and the rest of the council a little bit about that? Because I'm sure you use some of these services.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Nick, and for the committee members. This industry has been growing with providers. It started out with a couple, now there's DoorDash, Postmates, Uber, Grubhub, I think even Lyft has some point, whatever. So I don't see the supply diminishing. What I do see is consolidation. So Grubhub was bought out by a European delivery service. I think Uber has bought Caviar and such. So, I think we have 5 services. I don't see this legislation today, temporary as it is, reducing the supply. I think they're all trying to get market share. And I think there's more of a consolidation, which in some respects could reduce choice, but that's a ways down the road. So I'm not worried about having less providers pick up my food. That's it.
All right. Well, thanks, Tom. I appreciate it. And thank you, Madam Chair. That was my only real concern. Every alderman wants to support their restaurants. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And we do everything we can to help them. So with that, I yield to the next in line. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Sposato. Alderman Smith.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I too want to speak in support of this ordinance, and also am grateful that Alderman Waguespack has agreed to add me as a co-sponsor. Hospitality is the lifeline of the 43rd Ward. That's really our business. And I think it's pretty unconscionable that some of these delivery firms are scraping off information and masquerading as restaurants when they're not, when they don't have contracts. I think that's completely unconscionable. And I'm glad that that practice will be outlawed. So I just wanted to express my support. I'm really, really grateful for your leadership, Chairman Wagasback and Chairman Mitz in pushing this along. It's really the right time to do this right now as the winter is upon us. So thank you very much. And I have no other questions.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Chairman Reilly.
Thank you, Chairman. Appreciate it. I only have a few comments. I want to certainly compliment Alderman Wagasback and Alderman O'Shea for all the work they put into this ordinance. A couple of these delivery app companies are headquartered in the 42nd Ward, Grubhub being one of them. And while they've been taking their shots over the last several weeks, they are a popular delivery service for consumers. I think that during the pandemic, however, it brought this COVID issue has brought to light the general lack of transparency in these fees. And I think that most consumers, no matter what industry we're talking about, they want transparency. They want to understand where their money's going and who's getting what, so they can make decisions on what services they use and which ones they choose not to use. And pre-pandemic, a lot of these fees and costs were buried in these invoices, and consumers didn't care so much. But now, and especially in the coming weeks, in the event we have more restrictions imposed on the industry, literally curbside and carryout service is their lifeline. This is the only way these restaurants can survive, which is already a brutal winter, a bad season for the industry generally. And so when you have these app companies, some worse than others, really gouging these restaurants with surprise invoices and hidden costs and promotional fees, that takes away all of their margin and then some for restaurateurs who are already struggling to keep their employees on payroll and meet their basic obligations with their bills. Losing that margin means we're going to be killing restaurants. And so, I do respect the technology and the innovation that comes with it. However, there need to be limits, and I think consumers deserve to know how much is being taken from restaurants, how much they're paying, and for what. And so I think this ordinance is a good step in the right direction. I would have argued perhaps we could have gone further, but let's see how this works. I know a lot of work was put into this, and I'm proud to be a co-sponsor of this ordinance as well. But I think the message to everyone here is that we all win with more transparency. And if these third-party delivery apps aren't proud of their fee structures, and so much so that they'd rather those be hidden, maybe they need to change their fee structures. So I do think this is going to be a much needed bit of help to a struggling industry. I wish we had done this earlier, but here we are today. So thank you, Chairman Mitz, for having this hearing with you, Chairman Wagasback, and I look forward to voting in support of the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Reilly. Just for the record, to know that this ordinance were being worked on before COVID. Chairman Reilly, I think attorney, at some point, all of us have been working with many meetings and trying to find out a solution. And we have to acknowledge the administration and BCAP with their help, the law department, everyone to help to get us where we're at today. We can only say thanks to all of you. So our next speaker is going to be Alderman Lopez.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, members of the committee. I too join in support of this ordinance, and I as well wanted to ask a question of Commissioner Escarino if she is still on the line. My question is, I know for a while we were allowing restaurants to hold on to the fees associated and collected by the third-party operators. Are we still doing that as well?
Alderman, I think what you're referring to is the third-party delivery fee transparency rule, which we implemented back in May. We are continuing to ensure that that transparency of the commission is being placed both on the receipt as well as on the website, so that we continue to look at that, and we continue to work with the companies on that particular rule. I will tell you, since the implementation of the rule, that the companies have been compliant, and we've been working very closely with them on this issue.
In the beginning of the pandemic, many of the third-party delivery services had said that they were going to allow the companies to hold off. I think there was like a $500,000 pledge or something initially. Are they revisiting? Will they be revisiting that as well to give these restaurants additional cash flow management opportunities as these fees are being collected but not necessarily remitted back to the third-party delivery systems?
Alderman, are you referring to the fund that was created where these companies were participating in the fund? Or there were two things that were in this. Okay. I know that
I guess in short, Commissioner, is everything that was created and funded initially, are we going to also continue that as we look into the next 3 to 6 months of COVID 2.0?
Right. So I know that the companies, they themselves have made some commitments. I know Grubhub in the very beginning, I'm thinking back in April, they made a commitment to work with businesses. That was something that the industry did on their own. There was also a fund that was stood up by the many companies that was going to help the restaurants support some of the outdoor like tents or heating. And so those were going to be grants. I know that that is ongoing. And so certainly happy to provide you an update in terms of how the distribution of those funds are taking place, but those are continuing. In terms of the Grubhub initial, I think they were providing a percentage off at the very beginning of this, would be something that we would have to ask Grubhub since it was their own initiative. But happy to provide you an update as a follow-up through the chairs.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, I'd like to know, and if you could provide that to us, where we are with some of those initiatives. I think we have to start looking and making sure that our businesses are being good corporate partners to the businesses that they are in a symbiotic relationship with. And to that point as well, I do want to just say to my colleagues that, you know, a number of us, when a lot of the regulation was passed previous to COVID, with regards to some of these ghost menus and fake and illegal add-ons from restaurants, we said that we were not going to tolerate this. We said that that kind of behavior was not going to be something that this council supported, and yet we find it still going on. And I'm reminded of the home sharing, like Airbnb, things of that nature, where we were told that things would get better and they only got worse. And I would challenge my colleagues to not allow the third-party food service industry to be the next Airbnb bad actors that we had to deal with for years to try and get them to play nice in the markets that they participate in. I would hope that they would do the right thing, but we must be prepared to act accordingly to ensure that our restaurants are treated with respect because they are in this together. Thank you, Madam Chairman and Chairman, Commissioner.
Thank you, Alderman Lopez. Our next speaker is Alderman Vasquez.
Thank you very much, Chairwoman. Yeah, I also am proud to be a sponsor of this. I think it's something that, you know, we should have been more forthcoming with prior when Alderman Wagesback first introduced his. I think in hearing really from all of our local businesses, and those are the ones that are still here. There are many that have been closed since the last time this was introduced. It's pretty clear that our businesses need the support. I appreciate Alderman Sposado's point that some of the businesses need to update their websites as well to be competitive. You know, I would find that for some of the businesses that I've spoken to, that's also a challenge, right? Some of them are trying to figure out margins to be able to support those efforts. But also that some just don't have the tech savvy to get it set up. And I think Grubhub and some of the other third-party delivery services clearly have the capital to have way more than a head start, and can find the ways to find revenue. You know, some of the fees they're charging are for marketing purposes that the businesses need. So I think that it puts it in a dynamic that leaves the businesses at a disadvantage. And I'm glad that this is something we're putting forward. I do think it should be stronger, but I think it's a good step in the right direction. And just wanted to thank you for introducing it. Thank you for adding me to it.
Thank you, Alderman, and thank you for your work. I do remember you being in on some of the meetings that we were conducting as Chairman Wagensback were working the issues out and first brought it to the attention. So thank you for your input and the work that you've done as well.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Alderman Silverstein.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also just want to say that I am in full support of this ordinance. I am so concerned about the restaurants in my ward and have been trying to support them in any way that I possibly can. And I'm going to be signing on as a co-sponsor to this ordinance. Thank you.
Very, very good. Thank you, Alderman Silverstein. Alderman Turney.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Chairman Wagasback and Alderman O'Shea and others that have worked on this, before COVID. I wanted to just reiterate a couple of things for the ordinance. I believe that delivery fees are capped at 10%, but total commission fees are 15%. I think that's what I have read and certainly support. Is that true? Anybody answer that one?
Commissioner,
Total cap is 15%, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, of which
Yes.
of which 10% on the delivery side. Okay.
Exactly.
All right. And I just hope that many of you listened to the opening testimony by some of our independent restaurants. You know, as Chairman Wagasback said, that they're the lifeblood. I believe you said the lifeblood of our communities. Well, let me tell you, they are on life support. I think that there's almost a third of the businesses that have not reopened and will not reopen. But I think the longer this second wave comes out, we could be losing 50% of our independent restaurant communities. I've heard often that, pretty soon we're going to have chain restaurants and the Amazons of the world that will be dominating retail. And that is not what our communities want. The only other comment that I wanted to bring up is regards to, I think it was Grubhub that spends more on marketing than on the delivery mechanism. But as a user of Grubhub and many others, we don't look at them as a marketing arm. This is just a delivery mechanism. However way they've built their business model, we basically need delivery services. Some of us have able enough to have our own web designer and such, but I don't want the delivery services doing my website because they'll be steering to their individual provider or dissuading customers from actually picking up the phone or ordering online and bypassing the services. So, I mean, I think these companies are big enough and savvy enough that they can live within the 15%. And I think one of the speakers talked about the comparison to credit card fees. There's 85% of the people are using some type of card to process this, and 20 years ago it was 15%. The reality is that credit cards have many different uses. Some are debit, some are credit, some are loyalty, some are corporate, some are whatever. it is just it's impossible to keep track of the individual use of cards. So I applaud this idea that the restaurant and their bookkeeper and or accountant can take a look on a monthly basis saying, here's our, here's our fees, third-party provider fees, without delving into the 5 or 6 different providers and figuring out what's going on. They don't have the bandwidth to do that. But if we know, what the total of restaurant fees can be no more than 15%, I think that focuses more on their operations and their ability to deliver. So I wanted to respond to that because I think Grubhub was talking about their model is different than the rest of them. But as a user, I don't sense a difference one way or another. And you heard my comments about our website, which always needs to be updated, always. So thanks for listening, and thanks to the sponsors and our co-chairmans on this issue. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Turney. Chairman Dowell. Chairman Dowell, are you on?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. First, Chairman, I want to thank my colleagues, Alderman O'Shea and Alderman Wagasback, for bringing this ordinance forward. I've talked to a number of restaurant owners in my ward who would be supportive of this. I have one question which related to the definition for food establishment does not seem to cover shared kitchens. And I'm seeing some shared kitchens come up in my ward, and I'm just wondering, does this ordinance impact them?
Hi, Alderman Dowell. I'm looking at the definition right now. I do have Alexis Long from the law department on as well, in the event that, let me see, means website, application, internet. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. Alexis Long, can you address the specific question?
Sure. So I think, Chairman Dowell, I think your question is about the food dispensing establishment, which is the same definition that's in the municipal code. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm looking at, I didn't read the ordinance completely. I'm looking at the summary on the substitute. And
Sure.
in the definition of food establishment, where you call out cafeterias, restaurants, blah, blah. You don't call out shared kitchens, and I'm just curious. I just want to make sure this ordinance covers them.
So we took the definition that was already being used in the municipal code so that we could be consistent. You're correct. I'm reading the definition right now of food dispensing establishment as it's written, and I don't see shared kitchen. However, I must admit that I'm not familiar with shared kitchen or what shared kitchen would fall under.
And Alderman, let me ask Matt Allee. He's our Deputy Commissioner of Licensing. And I apologize, but the section of the code isn't fully in the section I'm looking at. So Matt, would you have any thought, any idea whether this definition actually includes or excludes shared kitchens?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, Chairman Dowell. So the substitute ordinance makes reference to the definition of a food dispensing establishment contained within 4-8-010, which defines it as a fixed location where food or drink is routinely prepared and served or provided for the public for consumption on or off the premises with or without charge. It then goes on to give examples of what that would look like, but it's not limited to those examples. So I would think that a shared kitchen would certainly fit within that definition and therefore would be applicable here. Yes.
Okay, not all shared kitchens though. You might have a company or a restaurant in that fixed building that doesn't prepare food on site, that might prepare it in another location and bring it there.
Sure. No, and I understand that as well. I think So I think you have shared kitchens where you have folks, I think the issue is whether or not that they are preparing food for ultimate consumption by the public, or whether it's going to be then parceled into the supply chain for then a restaurant to then run with. So I think we would need to look at who the shared kitchen user is dealing directly with, and if you or I could order a sandwich or whatever food item from that shared kitchen user, I think that they would then fit within this definition and would apply to the scenario. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Certainly.
Thank you, Chairman Dowell. Alderman Rodriguez.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to express my support for this measure as well. There are many restaurants in my area that are suffering right now because of the predatory practices of these delivery companies. So this is the bare minimum that we can do in order to protect them from these practices. I'm happy to co-sponsor this measure as well. I did want to ask a question about tips for drivers. Is there any language that refers to the possibility of drivers to preserve the 100% of the tip?
So Alderman, yes, I believe the ordinance it does indicate that the tip must remain with the driver and or the food establishment, depending on who is where the tip is actually directed.
Thank you for that. So I want to thank Chairman Wagesback, Alderman O'Shea, and Chairwoman Mitz for bringing this for discussion. And I really hope that it passes today and that we can vote it on council next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Rodriguez. Alderman Irving.
Thank you, Chairman Mitch. I got a question. Do I get 2 votes in this hearing because I'm on both committees? Just fun. Quick question. I'm not extremely familiar with how these delivery service models work, right? So by capping the fee at we said 10 to 15%. Can you help me if I order, an Italian beef from Portillo's, and the order comes out to like $10, and now what normally would it cost for what would be the normal delivery charge?
Well,
Commissioner.
Well, Alderman, I think that it does vary, right? And so when we passed the rule back in May, the idea was that they needed to disclose the commission, and within the commission, essentially be able to lay out for you, Alderman, how much you paid for that particular sandwich, how much in taxes, and then how much was actually being applied for delivery. And there's also to clarify that there was no more than 30% of the total commission that was transacted. And so that rule provided for that. I think that the different companies have a different way at arriving at that. What this ordinance now does, so now we have the rule in place, which I think is great. This additional ordinance now ensures that the cap of no more than 15% is applied with 10% of that going specifically to the delivery. And so there are different ways that they can calculate that, but what this does, there's 2 things now as a result of the rule and the ordinance. The rule indicates all the transparency that must be provided to you as a consumer must be laid out in the receipt. And then now this indicates that now you have to stay below that 15% total in fees to the restaurants. So to answer your question, they have different approaches at ways that they arrive at that.
Okay, let me just say this. My concern is about the individual who's making the delivery, right? So are we now like saying, on this $10 sandwich, where he would have maybe he or she would have received $3. Now they only can receive $1 for delivering the same sandwich.
This ordinance does not, and I can have Alexis along just further clarify from in case I'm speaking out of terms, but this ordinance does not direct anyone to reduce the tip in any way. We are indicating that the majority or the 10% must be provided on the delivery fee. Of the 15%, 10% of that must be dedicated to the delivery fees. It is then up to the company to determine what those are. However, Alderman, remember, there's a model where if you're the restaurant and you have the delivery person conducting the delivery, then that is one. Some of these companies provide the delivery fee and also pay the driver. So there are different approaches, but the idea is that the tip for the driver is not to be compromised either. Alexis, do you want to clarify?
Well,
I think that's how I read it.
That's correct. The only thing I would add is that in the ordinance, we specifically called that out and said that the third-party delivery company cannot reduce the tip to the driver. So I think what happens is the delivery fee that we're talking about is the fee between the restaurant and the third party. And so they're going to say, okay, we charge, say it's 30%. So 30% on that $10 sandwich. And then when you make that order, you could also say, I want to tip $2 to the driver. So that would be a separate kind of transaction. And what we're saying in the ordinance is, third-party delivery company, you can't adjust that tip that the customer gives to the driver.
Point of clarification, Sawyer.
Point of clarification, Alderman Sawyer.
So does this also affect their salary, or if they did get paid a set salary? I guess that was my concern. I think that might have been where Chairman Irvin was going.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
But their basic salary or hourly, or however they get paid basic over and above the tip.
Yes, so the ordinance specifically calls that out as well and says that it would be unlawful for the third-party delivery company to reduce the compensation rate of the driver.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to understand.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I could, point of information.
Point of information, Chairman Wagensback.
Thank you. In section 1(6), it says it should be unlawful for the third-party apps, just paraphrasing here, to reduce the compensation rates paid by the third-party delivery service drivers or to garnish gratuities as a result of any fee limitations. That's in page 3.
Thank you.
That's all, Madam Chair. Thank you much.
No problem. Thank you. Our next speaker is Alderman Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too want to echo my colleagues' sentiments and say what a great ordinance this is. And I know I've heard from some of my businesses, and I too would like to be added as a co-sponsor. Thank you.
Thank you. And also it has been requested, Chairman Dowell would like to be added as a co-sponsor to this ordinance as well.
You can add
Alderman Burnett.
As well. You can add Alderman Harrison.
Alderman Harrison.
Yeah.
You can add Alderman Burnett too.
Alderman Burnett will be added.
Add Alderman Irvin as well.
Alderman Irvin will be added.
Alderman Martin as well.
Alderman Martin will be added.
And Alderman Cardona.
Alderman Cardona will be added. Maybe should I ask who is it that don't want to be added? And
there you go. That's what. There. Now you got the answer. There you go.
Chairman, I have a point of information, please.
I need you to return your co-sponsor form that you have, though.
Chairman Mintz, I have a point of information in regards to the support of this ordinance.
Point of information, Chairman Attorney.
I want to highlight in the section 3 about when, if and when this ordinance passes, it would be, if we would get 2/3 of the members of the council, it would go into immediate effect. If we did not get 2/3 of the council, it would be 10 days subsequent to passage and publication, which is what, 40 days or something like that? If we don't, so our point is that we would love to make sure that we talk to all our colleagues. If your support is that enthusiastic, we'd like to get the 2/3 vote on this so we could enact it hopefully before Thanksgiving. If not, I'm not sure when it would ultimately go into effect, other than like 40 days from now.
Chairman Mitch, point of information.
Point of information, I believe that's Alderman Vasquez or Alderman O'Shea.
Yeah, Chairman, we're going to compile a list.
Yes.
And anybody who's on that list who doesn't sign on to this, we're going to hand that over to Santa Claus. So I think everybody on this call, it's incumbent on you to talk to our colleagues to get them to sign on to this. So, as Alderman Tunney pointed out, we need a 2/3 representation from the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman O'Shea. Our next speaker is Alderman Burnett.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just want to commend my colleagues on this ordinance. Having a ward with a lot of restaurants in it. It's, very challenging for them right now. We need to come up with anything that we can in order for them to be able to sustain themselves. So I appreciate these guys coming up with these ideas in the administration. Hopefully we will continue to come up with things to help these guys out. I'm happy to be a co-sponsor of it. Thank you very much.
No heat in the mansion, man?
Thank you, Alderman Burnett.
I'm getting a new door put in, man. They putting the door in right now, so I don't have a door.
Our next speaker is Alderman Napolitano.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too agree with this ordinance. I think it's a great idea. I agree with everything that Alderman Burnett said. I'll speak for him. Apparently he's in Alaska right now. But I'd like to be put down as a co-sponsor as well. I think this is terrific, and I'll help push some of our colleagues to see what I see in the benefit in this as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Garza.
Thank you,
Alderman
Chairman.
Garza.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, great idea, you guys. Thanks for your work on this. And I believe I did sign on. I don't want coal in my stocking, so I'd like to be as part of this ordinance as well. If I haven't already signed on.
Well, thank you. I think we've gotten through Alderman. No, I didn't. Alderman Tabaris.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm also in support of this ordinance. I believe I am a co-sponsor. If I'm not, please add me. I think we need to do everything that we can.
You're already a co-sponsor.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, everyone.
Alderman Cardona.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to echo, want to thank all my colleagues, my aldermen that worked on this ordinance. I do support this ordinance, especially here in Belmont Cragen, Hermosa neighborhood, small restaurants, independent restaurants. This is a need, and this is a lifeline. And I believe coming from a small business family many, many years ago, this is a great thing. And I'm in support, and please add me, as I told you earlier. And thank you very much for letting me speak.
Thank you. Alderman Michelle Harris. Michelle.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just add me on as a co-sponsor.
Very good. Are there any other speakers for today?
Madam Chair, if you could
I
also.
have my hand raised.
I think I heard Chairman Bill, Alderman Bill speaking. Said add him as well. Is that correct?
That's correct. Thank you.
Alderman
Yes.
Kappelman as well.
Alderman Kappelman as well. And Alderman Spazzato, don't you have your hand raised?
Yes, I do.
All right, Alderman Spazzato.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So seeing the way this is going, I don't want what I said my valid question that I was asked earlier to be misinterpreted as not to support this. So I felt I asked a valid question. I thought Alderman Hopkins brought up some great points for our businesses that I'm going to share with my businesses. And then Alderman Tunney also spoke eloquently some of his answers. But yes, I too support this. So I will fill out the form to be a co-sponsor of this. So thank you very much, Madam Chair.
He gets coal.
Thank you. Alderman Thompson, I see your hand still up. Are you wanting to say something? I do want to say that it is really refreshing to see everyone supporting the ordinance and supporting small business. And I would just like to say thanks to Chairman Wagesback for his vision and tenacity to want to bring this before us, and even to sit down in the times and the meetings we've held to try and work out the issue. And it's been back and forth, but it's been good. So this is what happens when we work together on items. We come out with a good result that benefits all, and hopefully this can help our small business and restaurants in our community. So I want to say thanks to the mayor, thanks to the team, thanks to everyone and all of you. The city is working today for us. So we have, I think Alderman Gardner has his hand up. Alderman Gardner.
Yes, Chairman Mitz, thank you. Can you put me down as a co-sponsor as well, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Alderman Hopkins, did you have something?
Yeah, thanks, Chairman Mitz. It is gratifying to see all of our colleagues join together on this one. It's an important issue, and I'm glad it's united us in support of our neighborhood restaurants. But we're not done yet. As was mentioned by several speakers, there's more work to do. The next step in this campaign of helping restaurants deal with this issue is providing a way for them to opt out and to prevent third-party delivery apps from hijacking their services. If a restaurant doesn't want to make itself available, that should be their choice. They should make it clear, and no one should have the right to pretend that they're acting with authorization and delivering food from a restaurant using their name, using their menu, and using their goodwill. That happens. It should not be allowed to happen. The solution to it is probably a little more complicated than we could deal with in an ordinance like today. So that's the reason it's not there. It's not that we're not aware of it, and it's not that we're not committed to finding a solution. It's just that problem is a bit more involved. We're gonna have to get the law department involved in it. But my intention is to move forward on that, and I talked to some of my colleagues, and I know you feel the same. So I just wanted to send that message out to the restaurant industry. That will be the next step in this regulatory change. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Chairman Dowell, and I'm going to have Chairman Wagesback to close us out of the meeting, and he have the final say. So, Chairman Dowell.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I just wanted to see if I could ask our Commissioner of BACP to get together with Alderman Hopkins and maybe create some kind of flyer that we could distribute to our local restaurants that would talk about the website improvements.
Commissioner.
Absolutely. So Alderman Dowell, just to be clear, number one is that I will work together with certainly the lead sponsors of this ordinance to make sure that we get out the information on the ordinance before us. But let me ask you this question. Are you asking that I work with Alderman Hopkins on the quote unquote unethical practices as a...
No. Alderman Hopkins talked about changes that the restaurants could make in their website so that it's easier for people to navigate, to understand how they do their deliveries, that kind of thing. I don't have that expertise, but I certainly think I have restaurants that could benefit from that information.
Yeah, I'll work with you, Commissioner, on
Absolutely.
that. Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
get that to you,
absolutely.
Alderman Dowell. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you,
for that
Alderman.
suggestion.
Yes, thank you for that suggestion. We'll definitely do that.
Thank you. We will also be adding Alderman Greg Mitchell as a co-sponsor to the ordinance. And at this time, I will turn it over to Chairman Wagensbeck, and you can close this out, sir.
Thank you, Chairwoman Metz. I really appreciate what everybody was saying today and in favor of, our restaurants. I know you all love our small businesses. It's really what you guys, as a whole, really look to support and as equally as our residents. So I know it's important to do things like this. And I just want you to know that I was working from the presumption that all 50 of you would at some point want to become co-sponsors on this. And I'm glad to see everybody helping out today. I just want to thank BACP again, Rosa and her team, Alexis over at DOL and the staff there, the mayor's office. And we did go back and forth quite a bit on this. It was difficult negotiations that have been going for, I would say, weeks, if not months. So I really appreciate everybody who gave me input behind the scenes. A lot of you were calling and talking about your individual locations, and I know how much it means to you, each of you, to support your small businesses. To Alderman Hopkins and Lopez, I think making the point about the ghost menus, we did submit an ordinance in July. It's July 22nd. It's a draft ordinance to go after this issue of these ghost menus and ghost kitchen type activity. So we'll start working on that, I think, after budget more earnestly with each one of you. And there was a lot of other information that was shared by the Illinois Restaurant Association. I hope you took a look at it. Things like DoorDash filing for a $25 billion IPO, the other type of legislation from other cities. And I just really appreciate all of you coming together on this one to support our small businesses. And I hope that we can get that 2/3 vote, as Alderman Tunney said, so we can help out our businesses by going to them and supporting them in other ways before Thanksgiving and until this pandemic ends. Thank you, Chairwoman. Really appreciate everything you've done on this as well.
Thank you. Well, if there's no other speakers, I'd like to get a motion by the same roll call.
Move to pass, Chairman.
Motion adjourned.
Alderman Lopez.
Hold on,
Move to
Nick.
pass, Move to pass by Alderman Lopez. No objections, so ordered. This matter will be reported out at the next city council meeting, Monday, the 24th of November. There. Oh, is it the 23rd? Okay, Monday, the 23rd of November. There'll be no further business before the Joint Committee on License and Finance.
Chairman?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Chairman,
Yes.
this is Lucia.
Yeah.
I think we need to do the motion again, just motion for passage by the same roll call vote as was used to determine quorum.
All right, can I get a motion to?
Again, so moved to Alderman Lopez.
Of the substitute.
Of the substance.
Substitute.
All
Move to pass.
Move
Based on the
by Alderman Lopez for the substitute by the same roll call.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, as determined a quorum. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. This matter will be reported out at the next city council meeting, Monday, November the 23rd. There'll be no public business.
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Alderman Lopez.
Alderman Lopez.
David Moore is here.
Alderman Moore is here, and Alderman Moore would like to be added as a co-sponsor to the ordinance as well. And we will send you the form out, Alderman Moore.
Yeah. We already sent the
Renew my
form.
motion. Move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Alderman Lopez.
Yes, ma'am.
All in favor?
Again, yes,
Aye,
ma'am.
Aye.
We'll use the same roll call as determined upon. This meeting is adjourned.